All right. Well, hello, everyone. Whether you're here in Asia or around the world in YouTube land, welcome to this Insight panel discussion with members of the Gerety Awards jury from Japan, whom I'll introduce in a moment. I'm Robert Sawatzky. I'm editorial director at Campaign Asia Pacific, and we're very happy to be a media partner of the Gerety Awards this year. Why? Because there's a lot of awards, as you know, but the Gerety Awards really are unique, and I think the concept is truly great. It's, I'm sure all of you know, but for those that don't, the Gerety Awards are the only creative prize to reward advertising campaigns that resonate most with a female audience. So all the judges are women, and this year 170 judges from around the world met to define the shortlisted works, which was just published this week. And there's a total of more than 300 entries that are on the shortlist from 37 different countries. Japan was one of the countries hosting a global jury this year. And from that jury, we brought on 4 jurors for this panel, whom I'll introduce to you now. Ami Mochizuki is head of the international unit and producer at Tohokushinsha Film Corporation. And,
thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Maiya K is a PR planner and copywriter at Dentsu. Welcome here.
Hello.
Straight from the bamboo forest is Yumi Tanabe, who is COO and head of production at Sin Music.
Hello, nice to meet you. Good to be here.
And Miwaza Jemimah is an independent creative. Welcome, Miwaza.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to you all. I guess I want to start with just to ask you how different was this experience judging, alongside other women creatives in Japan from other kinds of either juries or industry events that you typically might be on. Ami, do you want to start?
Sure. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, just to answer your question, like how different it was, I guess it was not much difference, like essentially, but it was just fun for me because I, with this chance, like I got this is an opportunity for me to be able to have discussion about works with all the creatives, the top creatives and the female from Japan. And we all have like a lot of things in common, of course, working women in the industry. And we try, like to judge the works as objective as possible, because the criteria is not like just from the woman view, but like just the work itself as creative or effective. So, but it was just for me was really fun to just chat with all the ladies. It was a great time.
How about you, Yumi? Do you want to weigh in?
Yes. Oh, same here. Really, the big difference, I guess, was really looking at from a female audience point of view, sort of, not just the females, but perhaps the minorities, or just a fresh view from that. And yeah, just like how Ami mentioned, it was really great to discuss and hear all the topics that probably need to be tackled going forward in the industry and with all these great professions. So it was a great pleasure, and I've been enjoying it.
Great. So, I mean, obviously there's, will be like any other jury differences, opinion, etc. But Miwaza, I'm just wondering too, if you're wondering if, did you feel like the work that kind of you were talking about would still be, and the conversations were different than, say, if you were in a mixed jury or there was an all-male jury in Japan kind of looking at the same work?
For sure. I think there were also a lot of work submitted to this award that was like targeted more towards women, and also like around the topics of like female, hygiene, or, like period, pregnancy, being a mother, and different things. And I'm sure, these works did go to different awards as well, where they have male juries and whatnot. But like being a female and being with other female creatives, it was great to like see that, not just as a jury, but also as one human being that exists in this
Mhm.
society, to know that there are people creating these amazing work to raise awareness of things that we need to be talking about, really. So it was an amazing experience, and I'm very grateful to be part of it. Yeah.
And Maiya, maybe again, how do you think that kind of the conversations and maybe the work discussed might be different or the same to, let's say, even next week at Cannes Lions?
I think the topics that we picked up was, I think as a female, there were more that we could strongly relate to. I'm sure like men nowadays, obviously they're interested in like gender issues as well. But we all had like probably that personal experience that we can also talk about. So I think the volume of talking about personal experiences as well would be different from Cannes. But also, I thought it was interesting how the jury is like city-based, and Cannes it's more like role-based. So I judged at Spikes, but that was like the PR category. So it's mostly like people from PR. But Gerety Awards, it's you got like a diverse people from different areas, and we're all judging categories that were areas that we're working in, but also like maybe categories that we usually won't judge, like graphics or like innovation. I wouldn't be called for jury in the innovation Cannes, but that was also interesting, and it was nice to like listen to all the perspectives from people in other fields.
And it must be nice too to see work outside of your field.
Yeah.
Listen to also the other perspectives from those that aren't necessarily working in that either. All right. Why don't each of you maybe tell me about a favorite piece of work that kind of you looked at and why you liked it. Ami, do you want to start?
Okay. Well, I guess there's a lot of works. I mean, in terms of the whole number, maybe I mean, it's really hard to compare because like there's so many different kinds of it, and then we did like a really interesting discussion over it. But one of the things that there was a lot of pros and cons about this project, about this campaign, but like everybody was at least have something to say about it, and then that was for me was like a boobs mix. I don't know if it was a correct name for that, for the campaign, but yeah, that was actually my favorite thing, because if it's good or bad, like whatever it is, like it's something that people want to talk about, and then something to catch their interest, meaning like at the end, like it could kind of raise the awareness of it. So and it's a really fun project, and also interactive using the music. So in an objective way to take a look at it, I mean it's fun, it's kind of well done also, but also like very effective in a way to have it on the table and to discuss about it. So yeah.
I think that was mentioned.
I'll pick that one.
That came up in the notes a fair bit, so I think a lot of people found that was this from Belgium, I think, or something like
yes, I think it was from Belgium.
Yumi, how about you? Which work, maybe you kind of describe one work that you looked at and kind of maybe why you liked it or thought it was maybe set apart from others.
It's hard. There were so many, and obviously, how Ami-san mentioned the boom mix. That was one of my favorites too. But then I think Ami-san raised perhaps a tagline. Apparently, you have to go check in regularly without even before even testing kind of thing. So, but I really like that integrated 360 wise. I did as well. But I'm sure the womb pain stories will come up. And I did share that what I cried, and it was a personal thing as well, but the integration of is the imperfect parenting, organic shots again. It looked real, so I'm believing it's real. But it was really a strong message in a documented way that said enough that young parents can, feel good that they're doing a good job, even if it's really hard parenting. So I thought that was a great way of messaging that, and visually, it was quite impactful. I felt, but yeah.
Miwaza, how about you?
I really like the campaign that Brazilian beer company did. Cervejeira is me.
Cervejeira.
Yeah. So it was about this like the beer brand basically raising awareness that, okay, like cervejeira is a feminine word, but then when you look it up, it means a beer fridge, but it doesn't, right? Like it means a female brewer. So like I really like the fact that the brand is actually, I don't know, paying attention to all these like things that we just use in our daily lives without thinking, but then like kind of like second guessing it and like taking that and then like actually they ended up like involving different beer brands as well in Brazil to kind of start using this word in the right way. And so not just like, they didn't just like advertise their beer, but they kind of like advertised the cause, but in such an integrated way that I was like, this is the kind of the work that I want to be doing, where like, if I see this brand in the store, of course I'm going to buy it, because it's not just the beer tasting good, but it's like, the idea behind it, the branding, the story, that was really powerful, and I guess I don't see a lot of that in Japan, where brands are going beyond their product or their service they're providing. Ads are not just ads. It's storytelling, and it's raising awareness, and I was moved by this campaign, and I saw like something similar as well, where brands are just like not just like talking about their product, but their I don't know, their value, I guess. That was very powerful. Yeah.
Great. Maiya, how about you?
My favorite was New York City NYC Says Gay, which is the campaign where when Florida, I think it was when they passed the Don't Say Gay law in the United States and in the state, and New York City responded, the mayor came out and they had a whole campaign that they responded like, that's a stupid law and you can say gay in New York City. So everyone come to New York City, but they did that whole campaign using media in Florida, which I thought was like a quick response and a bold statement that a local government can do. And I think Japan can learn, especially Japanese brands, local governments can learn a lot from this, because it really like encouraged the people who living in Florida. And I don't know if everyone would move to New York City, but like definitely raise the value of the brand of New York City. And it represented, we might talk about this later, but brand boldness, or like brands taking a stand for something. And it reminded me of something that happened in 2020 in Japan. A senator from a certain district in Tokyo mentioned that if we are okay with like same-sex marriage, our district will corrupt in a few years. And the people responded on Twitter by having like a "We Are Here" kind of campaign. But no, I don't think any other local government kind of responded in like a structured way that New York City did. So we could really learn from, I'm sure in the future, there's gonna be like other politicians gonna be like discriminative statements. So we could be prepared for that.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
It's not just like boldness, right? But like, it's also the speed, like how they responded so quickly, and like how they mobilized the production and everything to like come up with that like so quickly.
And it was
That's
so
interesting.
though it was American.
Mm.
Like the humor was really American. It was like, we're gonna say whatever we want, and gay is one of those things. Like, I like American humor personally, so that was
Yeah, no, absolutely.
favorite.
I think maybe that speed, the boldness is something. Every time I look at something, I'm reflecting back to Japan, and I think this whole journey it was inspiring, but also reflected, oh, where's Japan and where are we? What could we do more? Or yeah, so definitely that one was about speed and the reaction, and wow, it's like there it is.
Right.
Don't say gay.
Like so many of you seem to raise from the comments that I saw in the jury, where you kind of like constantly were going back and kind of comparing with work that between kind of the global work and work in Japan. And so, I mean, you've identified already, some things that might be different, including kind of like speed, etc. I'm wondering if, I guess, what else did you sort of see that was maybe either, different from kind of the work in Japan, either in terms of the way it was shot or the, again, whether it was like just the straight, either straight boldness or something else. What were some of the differences that you saw between the global work and the work that you tend to see more of in Japan? I can go to anyone on this.
Yeah, because that's a big topic. There's so much to say about it, right?
Yeah.
The silence is very Japan. Like those are.
I'm Canadian. We're pretty polite too. We actually need to a lot.
I think one of the words that came to my mind just now is like, I saw a lot of brands that are very unapologetic.
Yeah.
About what they're talking about, which is quite different here, which it's not a bad thing, right? Like it's a cultural thing. So I think that's the conversation that we need to continue to have. Like how can we learn from them and also combine that with the values that we have? But I think brands being apologetic about what they're talking about, whether they're right or wrong, whether you agree with them or not, they're very firm about what they're talking about.
Especially like the woman related social issues, like womb stories. We just talked about that, but I don't think that would resonate with the Japanese audience. You can't be like, here's a womb. And that might surprise, because sex education is way behind in other countries. So we definitely have to like tone it down to what can be talked about in like public areas.
It's not just the message that, unapologetic. Like, I think it shows on their visual presentation as well, right? Like the womb story, like, is really powerful visually too. And the idea behind it, of course. And that goes to like so many different campaigns that we saw.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always imagining, what if they did this in Japan? What if they did this in Japan? They should do this in Japan. How come they're not doing it in multi-languages? Kind of thing. But that womb one, it could be a little bit grotesque, but it was such a bold step of revealing. And Japan probably will need to be doing that more. What do you think, being in advertising? Because I wonder how the reach is at the heart, at the personal level. There's a lot of campaigns that actually treated like the sick kid, there was a solution to it. I wonder where that's something to work on going forward. What do you think?
I'm also wondering, go ahead, Ami.
Oh, no, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah, just wondering kind of where to in the process too, because some of you have referenced audience, some of you referenced maybe kind of whether the brand is bold, like between kind of brand, agency, and audience, like is one kind of more willing to have kind of, like you said, kind of that kind of bolder view, or where do you think the the differences are in the in terms of how far you want to kind of push what a brand is willing to push?
I think it goes both ways, really, right? Like the audience means the mass, right? Like the Japanese society. Like we don't talk about, I don't know, at least amongst me and my friends, I don't talk about my period, but we should be talking about our period, right?
Yeah.
We should be talking about sex. We should be talking about what we struggle with as women, or as anybody, as a minority, as an Asian woman in the industry. Like we should be talking about these topics, but we don't. A lot of times I find it very hard to bring up topics that matters in conversations. So if I go drinking with my clients, like we end up talking about the last time that we drank, you know, the food that we're drinking. We talk about beer. That's it. So that's the audience that we're trying to reach, right? And then the brands, they're the same people. They're also, you know, the group of people that comes from the same society. So they're hesitant to bring up all these topics. Maybe they don't even think about talking about these things. So somebody needs to start it. And I think, you know, it kind of goes back to the first question that you asked us, Robert, right? Like, I was so encouraged to meet the other juries through this journey, other female creatives, because we had such an amazing conversation through 3 hours nonstop. And that's the type of conversation that we should be having. And so I was like, okay, there's a little bit of hope here, not just like advertisement agency or like creative wise, but like, okay, at least there are, you know, 10 plus Japanese women that wants to talk about things that matters.
Yeah.
So there it goes to the kind of
Absolutely.
representation question, right? I mean, I guess it's kind of like, would it be different? Would those things that you say, you know, that you're kind of like saying that it should be talked about, would they actually be talked about more if there was a difference? I mean, I know that we've done surveys and we've participated with the World Federation of Advertisers on a diversity survey across the industry, et cetera. And Japan really lagged compared to other markets when it comes to women's representation in the industry. And do you think that's part of it? Just like if numbers were up, it would make a huge difference.
But what
100%.
what did the data say? It's not a lot of.
The data showed that there was far less representation of women in different
representation
in the advertising
in all advertisements.
Right, even including on, you know, brand side and agency side in different
levels. As people working in the industry as well.
Working in it, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I never. This is like the first time I actually talked to like women in the industry other than people in my company. Like, and I've been in the industry for like 10 years, and like I was like, I don't know any woman from like Hakuhodo, or I don't know anyone from like ADK, but all the guys know people in the industry, and I thought that was like so strange. But
I totally agree that you know, I feel like I've been working around men, there's women there, but there's no community like this where we can talk with the similar professions or the industry and, you know, really just honestly talk. Maybe if there was something more visible to Japan specified for the women in the creatives, maybe that voice will become louder into the companies that they go into, or, you know, sort of will need to listen a bit more. Maybe that's one step further to get things across from the new idea without getting thinned out for a bold idea. Maybe. You're right.
Yeah, I want to actually ask this to some of you who works in a company, right? In the agency, because I worked as a freelance creative all my life. So I work with like dentsu or like Hakuhodo, but I've never worked in the company. Like the people that, you know, end up working for like big agencies in Tokyo or in Japan in general, do you think there's a lot of like exposure to young Japanese girls for them to like even think about becoming a creative someday? Or like, do you think there's like a lack of visibility amongst like female creatives in Japan, that like for Japanese young girls to like even have that as an option? Like, do you think the problem starts there, or like the problem?
I mean, like role
is
models.
Yeah, exactly.
Representation wise, yeah, there's not a lot of female role models, but there are a lot of female applicants who want to come into creative, but then they realize halfway in the career, they're like, wait, why aren't they like female TVC directors, or like why are there never like women in like the there's only like old art directors and women and like
usually designers.
Where did they go?
Yeah.
It's like they just leave after they have kids. So we need like a better structure for
I think it has something. I think it has a lot. I think it has a lot to do with the work condition and the work hours, and like especially because I'm from production house, so we do kind of like we really need to be like physically super strong to be able to catch up with the project. So and that I think going back to the discussion that we were saying earlier, that I guess it's like the campaign itself is so like our working condition is so, but it's I guess like the perspective of the people here, and I guess it was kind of developed through like all this history and the culture things, like the people needs to be modest and those kind of I mean it's a good thing to be modest sometimes, but it's just like in that kind of environment, like the woman didn't get a chance to be able to stand out to actually try to change it. So so
do you think it's getting any better, like compared to like 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Do you have any hope?
Yeah, actually our company right now, all the production managers, like they later become producers, like new guys like coming into our company, they're more women actually, and they're very, very strong and tough, and doing
one other thing
hard works.
Other than like the work structure, work environment, is actually these girls who actually come into creative, they're also have a gender bias that's grown into them throughout living in Japan their whole life. And then when I asked them to like write a storyline for like a commercial, sometimes there is like the mom makes dinner and the dad comes home from work type of style. So that's, I don't know if like they grow up like that, or someone told them to do that, or like whoever like looks at the creative director directs them like that. But we definitely have to tackle like unconscious gender bias in the creative industry as well.
That is true, but at the same time, like I said, like I see a lot of hopes recently, like in especially like 20s, like younger generations. I mean, the change is very, very slow. Like Robert just said earlier, compared to other countries, like or maybe the international standard, maybe like Japan is very, very behind. But still, I see a lot of changes. Last 5-10 years has been done. So
I think we just have to keep, you are the top creators and the leaders. So I think we need to help make that action, and we need to, prove that this can happen more and more and more, and pave that way. And I feel, I reflect upon myself, like how many have I influenced, in the company outside? If we did it together, maybe it could be more, So I'm really, really appreciative of this, this encountership. I was shocked to learn that Japan is ranked 120 out of 150 global countries as gender gap. I'm like, that's a big. So we are kind of behind, and there's a lot to do. But I have hope too. It's just it's the culture. Yeah, it's a cultural thing. I think in production too, as you say, it's pretty tough. So
I think you mentioned paving the way. That's such a great phrase. I love it. Being a pioneer, right? Because I think we're all pioneers in some ways in this industry, and the industry is very lucky to have us. And the same thing that where we're talking about, like, the brands being bold, like somebody needs to start something, and paving the way takes a lot of time and energy and a lot of failing and a lot of being pushed back. But like, we need to keep doing, at least us, like if we're aware of the things that we need to change, like we should be doing something in areas that we're in, I guess.
Absolutely.
We
Yep.
benchmark, agencies, etc. So we kind of see progress even just on a regional basis. And Maiya was saying, there's like when it comes to entry level, we're definitely seeing that there's a mix. It's more 50-50 coming into all the agencies, etc. It's just the time. It's just time and pace that's changing. But I also want to say that also just on a bigger, broader level, we still look at the industry in Japan as a really vibrant industry, a really inventive industry, and one that's where there's so much stuff that we're more likely to see something come out of Japan that will make us actually also think differently too. So I wanted to get your take, because we've been talking about kind of things that you're to push for change in Japan, but I also want to hear from you where you think Japan has some lessons to teach the rest of the world when it comes to creative work.
Wow, it's a difficult question.
I think there is, like, when it comes to creatives, right? Like if you go back in time, there's this like shokunin culture, like craftsmanship type of attitude and mentality. And I really love that and resonate with that. And I value that. So I think we are very meticulous about details, and that's something that we can be proud of. So I think that's like the seed that we need to kind of like go back to. And yeah, we're dealing with like digital creatives and whatnot. We're not making potteries, or we're not making, Japanese traditional art in a way, but we can still hold that value and be meticulous, be detail oriented, and I don't know, like kind of have that kimochi, have that Japanese soul, when like kokoro, when creating anything, really. So that's something that I think of, because I've worked overseas too, and yes, like when I come back here, the meticulousness of like attention to details, when someone's creating something, and when actually
obsessively,
exactly, I think that's great. That's something that we can all learn from. So that's my take on your question, Robert.
I can think I agree on that craftsmanship totally, and we should treasure that. As more visitors in Japan come, I think that could be more outlet in a creative way as well. I also, as you see, Robert, in the industry, how manga is being paid attention to so much. It took a while for that to not to get out there, to be understood. But I think the imagination going behind for Japanese in general is explosive. But putting it out is, we have to think about the we need to think about the audience. We don't want to hurt it. It's very, how do you say? The steps are different in the approach, but the imagination is, I think, quite explosive, as you see in the manga.
No, totally agree.
I'm just actually curious though, Robert, because me being like Japanese, right? And then I, spend a lot of time abroad, and sometimes I get like a lot of like comments from like the non-Japanese people, or maybe like the people who never lived in Japan, like saying a lot of different things about, okay, so I understand this is Japanese culture, this is so cool, but what is it like from like outside, like how does it look like? And it's always different, and sometimes it's actually really different from like what I know as Japan, sometimes. So how do you think? Sorry if I'm allowed to ask a question.
You're gonna flip in and interview me. No, I mean, I think it's in definitely what Miwaza was saying about in terms of craftsmanship and attention to detail. That is evident. That's evident in the products, I guess, one that come, but also then in how a campaign is put together, how, especially on the design, you know, the different kind of design that comes back, it has, you know, more detail than you would expect elsewhere. And also just in terms of quality of, I guess, quality of, like, for instance, if it's food, it'd be quality of ingredients, right? But if it's ingredients in a campaign, I think just like in terms of it, just everything seems to be well crafted in terms of the quality of how things are shot, how things are done. That's absolutely evident to everyone.
I think the attention to detail, meticulousness, obsession for craft is a strong point of Japan. But also we probably need like a new support system for these creatives, for these shokunin creatives, because I think until now, sometimes it has been taken advantage of. For example, in like the anime industry, animators are super underpaid, but Japanese anime is so high quality. Like they make extremely good works, but like underpaid animators are still a social problem in Japan. But like how Korea supported the entertainment industry, maybe Japan could support creatives in Japan, not just animators, but of course like advertising creatives as well. And it could be like a healthy cycle there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, right.
That's why I didn't want to go simply to like the detail part, craft part.
It comes out from like self-sacrifice a lot.
Yeah, it has been built on a lot of sacrifice.
And also I feel like there's like a big gap between, you know, artists being artists or creatives being creatives, and also like the financial side of things. So like, you know, photographers or like videographers or like painters, artists, they're so good at what they do, but they don't know business. So they end up like taking like kind of crappy deals, and they will still do a great job because we are just hardworking people. So we kind of have to combine everything all together. So like artists who's great at what they do, let's combine that with a great producer from advertisement agency who knows what they're doing, marketing, branding, and combine like both of the worlds, combine the worlds together, and maybe something new. Maybe that's something that we need to be doing.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like more about like culture, like perspective on like giving the value to the creativity or artist, you know, artistry.
Well, as you said, sacrifice, that's so true. Like in, you know, production, animation, not only animation, but other parts of production, right? Where I think one of the weakness for Japan could be that we don't have unions. I mean, that's a big say, right? For film, you know, we don't have that protection, anything for production. So maybe for for the younger generation, this is something that we need to look into. Or how do you protect it? As you say, the craftsmen, you know, if they're going to they need to pass it on in a new way. How do you pass it on?
That's why it's called craftsmen. They have, like, women.
You got it.
Handling the family behind them.
Go there.
Let's get the crafts people.
Yes.
I'm really sorry to have to wrap this up. We're way past the time that we're half hour that we allotted.
I thought we're gonna talk for another 2 hours.
We haven't got some of the questions that we really wanted to tackle, so I apologize for that, but that is all the time we have today. So I want to thank my panelists very much. Ami Mochizuki from Tohokushinsha Film Corporation, Maiya Kinoshita from Dentsu, Yumi Tanabe from Sin Music, and Miwaza Jemimah, an independent creative. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Also, just a reminder to everyone, the Gerety Award winners will be announced this fall on September 6th. So if you want to also check out the shortlist, you can do so at the Gerety Awards website. You can see the Asia Pacific highlights on campaignasia.com. But thanks everybody for watching. I really hope you enjoyed as much as I did. This was a great conversation. Hope to keep it going too. But goodbye for now. Thanks everyone.